What's up, guys, and welcome to the first full episode of the Back Porch. I'm Colin Wright, and we've got a couple topics to talk about in the world of college football today. First up, we've got the college football playoff schedule was released this past week. All right. I've been a fan of the expanded playoff ever since we started talking about it way back whenever the 14 playoff was initiated. We kind of all knew that this would come at some point, that it was needed at some point. Well, it's finally here starting this season. All right. Like I said, I knew I was a fan of it. I did not realize how much of a fan of it I am until I saw this graphic. And I'm going to put this graphic up on the screen for you. We've got a month straight of college football playoff games. All right, starting on December 20th, ending with the national championship in Atlanta on January 20th. All right, we've got 11 total playoff games. That's going to include 3 on Saturday, December 21st, and we've got 3 on New Year's Day as well. All right, if you love college football, you love this. You absolutely love this. I don't see how anybody could argue with getting to watch more college football playoff games. All right, this is going to be spectacular, and it's going to set all sorts of viewership records. I, for one, absolutely cannot wait. All right, next up, CBS Sports. They put out a graphic this past week as well with the 10 longest active home winning streaks across college football. At number 1, you've got Georgia. At number 2, you've got Michigan. All right, Georgia, they're sitting at 25. They've got 6 home games this season as they play 2 neutral site games, open up against Clemson and Atlanta. And then they've got Florida and Jacksonville as always, right? With that being said, they've got a pretty easy home slate for a team like Georgia, at least. Their biggest threats, they've got Tennessee and they've got Auburn. All right, starting with Auburn. Auburn comes to visit, and Georgia has won 12 of the last 15, including 7 in a row. Okay, Auburn's going to be a middle of the pack team this year. That's at best. All right, they've got some rebuilding to do down there. Okay, the only thing that scares me here for Georgia is it's coming a week after the trip to Tuscaloosa, early in the season, and you got to wonder what's the mood going to be like around Athens. What's the mood going to be like around the locker room? Coming after what I predict to be an emotional victory or loss. Who knows? In Tuscaloosa the week prior. Okay, it's going to be a close one. I'm not sure which way. I'm not sure who comes out on top. But that's what you got to look out for Georgia here. You got to stay focused, regardless of what that outcome is the week before. Because even though Auburn may be a little bit down right now, it's still SEC football. You still got to come ready each and every week. All right, so I don't think Auburn's going to win this game. I really don't. But like I said, what's the mood going to be like around Georgia football? How's Carson Beck going to be settling in without his 2 favorite guys from last season in his first year as a starter? Okay, Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. You can't understate the importance of those 2 players. McConkey went 32nd overall, and I think Brock Bowers went 13th overall. McConkey 33rd overall. Either way, you cannot understate the importance of those 2 guys. Okay, how's Trevor Etienne going to be doing? The transfer from Florida. I think he's going to be a star. Is he going to be fully up to speed by the time this Auburn game comes around? Remains to be seen. All right, next up you got Tennessee. Tennessee, Nico's the quarterback of the future there. He's the quarterback of the present now too. They're not ready to compete with Georgia. Okay, they're just not. They're a good team. They're a good squad. They're going to have a lot of success this year. There's just no shot for them here, to be honest with you. However, if Tennessee does manage somehow, some way, to upset Alabama earlier in the year, they survived their Oklahoma and NC State matchups early on in the season, this game could have some pretty big late season implications in the SEC title race. In SEC title race, mind you, where your 4 favorites right now, you've got Ole Miss, you've got Texas, you've got Georgia, and you've got Alabama. Those tiebreakers are going to be something to watch come season end. All right, next up you got Michigan. Michigan's sitting at 22 home game win streak right now. Over the course of 3 Big Ten title seasons, all right, we know they beat Ohio State 3 years in a row. That's all great. That's dandy. Going to be a little bit tougher for Michigan to continue that streak like Georgia will be able to this year because Michigan, they welcome Texas, USC, and Oregon all to Ann Arbor this season. All right, that Texas matchup is week 2. This is a huge game for the trajectory of Michigan's season and for the Sharon Moore era up in Ann Arbor. Okay, the brand new head coach, he's got a lot of reloading to do, but guess who else does? Sarkisian in Texas. All right, between the two teams, 24 draft picks, 13 Michigan, 11 Texas. Both of these teams are depleted, but still have a lot of talent to replace those departures. All right. I know this is an SEC versus Big Ten matchup, but as I mentioned just a minute ago, those tiebreakers are going to come into effect for conference title races because, remember, we don't have divisions in the SEC or the Big Ten anymore. All right, so we could have 2 or 3 teams in both conferences that are sitting at 11-1, all with wins over each other. Okay, how far down is that tiebreaker going to go? I don't know the specifics of it. I don't know how far down it goes. All right, but non-conference record could potentially play a factor somewhere in there. All right, so that Texas versus Michigan, that's a big game for many reasons. All right, next you've got USC. Okay, USC, I'm not as high on USC as a lot of people seem to be. Okay, until Lincoln Riley can field a defense that is average, I don't really trust him. I don't trust him to win big games. Okay, you had Caleb Williams last year, the Heisman winner the year prior, the undisputed #1 overall draft pick. We all knew it for the entire year. Chicago knew it the second that they locked in that first draft pick. Okay, you went 7-5 last season in the Pac-12. You never know. It's still a Lincoln Riley offense. He can pull some tricks out of his sleeve. He can make it happen. Michigan can be underperforming at that point in the year. Who knows? We'll see. Finally, you've got Oregon. This is a big matchup. I'm interested to see how Oregon fares against a Big Ten defense week in and week out. This is kind of leading me to one of those scenarios I mentioned earlier where you could have 3 teams sitting all at 11-1 with wins over each other. You could very well see Oregon with a win over Ohio State with a win over Michigan, and Michigan with a win over Oregon here in the Big Ten title race. Okay, Oregon's going to be a good squad. Michigan's got their work cut out for them in this game and the other 2 I've already mentioned. That Oregon-Michigan game, you could see a top 10 matchup. Oregon will probably be 7-1 or 8-0 depending on their Ohio State matchup. Michigan will probably be 7-1 or 8-0 depending on their Texas and USC matchups, depending on how those go. All right, so we've got those 2 streaks. They're very impressive already, and if both teams manage to survive the home slate this season, that's pretty impressive. Georgia would be sitting at 31. Michigan would also be sitting at 31 because they've got 9 home games in addition to Texas, USC, and Oregon. They also play Fresno State, Arkansas State, USC, Minnesota, Michigan State, and Northwestern. All right, so moving on. Last thing for tonight, we're getting a lot closer to the release of EA College Football 25. I know a lot of you out there and myself, we've been waiting for this for 11 long years. Okay, it's been 11 years. In that 11 years, violence is up, kids are dropping out of school, the world's in turmoil. All right. I'm hard-pressed to believe this might be part of the reason why. All right? The return of this game, I think it fixes all that. I think it fixes every bit of it. I firmly believe that. All right? July 19th is the date. Unless you pre-order the deluxe version, you can play it July 16th. I'll be getting that pre-ordered deluxe version. I already told my wife, I said, honey, listen, you've got the kids from July 16th to about August 1st. You've got the kids, you got the house. I'm on vacation. All right. I'll be in the living room, but I'm on vacation. Okay, honey, send me an email if you need me. I'll get back to you within a couple business days. All right. But no, seriously, this game coming out is fantastic for so many people. It's going to be it is the most anticipated sports game of all time, in my opinion. I think it's going to set all sorts of EA records when it comes out, and I absolutely cannot wait to get my hands back on it after this long 11 years. Well, guys, that's all I got for you today. I appreciate you watching. Make sure to subscribe. Keep up with future episodes coming out, and we'll see you next time.